LSU Odyssey live. LSU Odyssey returning after um, a few crazy turbulent days. We'll say that for myself, and as we've found tragically for others as well. For us, it was some good, and then kind of some worrying things, but we're sure it will be okay. We're hoping that, but really bad stuff for great people has happened to Kevin Falk with his daughter passing away. Tanasha Falk unexpectedly passed away at the age of 30, and this was just terrible news the other night. As it was not lost on me that as I was welcoming in my daughter to this world, he was sadly losing another. This is the second daughter he has lost, Kevin Falk, LSU legend, Super Bowl, three-time Super Bowl champion at the New England Patriots. We all know how clutch he was in those games that delivered all those Super Bowls. But it all comes down to family for that man. And there's nothing more that I can say other than we absolutely love Kevin Falk. He is the reason we love LSU in the first place, was Kevin Falk. Watching him, getting to know him has been great. Being able to interview him was a privilege. But we just want nothing more than great vibes, great blessings and feelings in the air, a celebration of Tanasha's life in the next little while here. There's nothing that can really be said for a parent losing a child. It's just it is the unimaginable. It is the most horrific thing a person could probably go through. And Kevin Falk, as strong as that man is, we all must get behind him, back him 100%, and make sure him and his family know that they are not alone through this. And with that, we'll start the show. But I had to say my piece about this horrific, unexpected loss of life that must be addressed, and for such a LSU legend that means so much to the LSU community, had to be addressed. But as Kevin Falk would want us to do, we'll go into the show. This is LSU Odyssey Live. I know it's been a few days. I know it's been a few days that you've heard from us. We've tried to have articles out during this time where we have had our own wild few days where we we get our second kid. Chelsea gives birth to a second kid, a daughter now, and it was a wild experience. It was actually quite smooth in comparison to other experiences, especially the first one with Sage. I'm referring to. That was hellacious. And so with this one, it was a lot better. It was a lot smoother. But still, there's some after effects that have been kind of worrying. The situation has gone on a bit longer than we were expecting, and family comes first with me, as you know. But we are here now to deliver the show and to really catch you up on this LSU stuff, because there's some interesting things going on. I wish I had my full capabilities. I only have my phone because my son, my 3-year-old son, Sage, is maniacally, violently holding on like a madman to that iPad. And he's only been watching the show for a little bit. But he's like, no, I'm not letting you have this thing. And it's like, it's very rare he ever even gets to use these things, the iPads. He usually can't unless it's like last ditch. He must kind of be chill at the doctor's office situation. We just don't like him using these things. And it's like he's using it for just even a minute. And it's like, oh my God, we got to get this thing away from this kid. And eventually Chelsea does, but it wasn't in time for me to start the show. So we are on the phone, not on the iPad. So we don't have too much full capabilities of our, graphics and all that stuff. So bear with us, but we will try and deliver our best show. Because it's not really about all of that kind of external stuff. Right now, what's going on is high stakes, insanity in college football. Right now, what's going on is absolute madness in college football, in the landscape of college football. It has never been more bizarre, more topsy-turvy, and more just kind of like question marks about everything, and wondering where the future, the sustainability, the limits, the potential, the potential for something to be ruined, like of all of this, from the expansion of the playoff to getting very granular with when you have the transfer portal or don't have the transfer portal. I mean, it's the NIL stuff as well. You can't escape the NIL questions. You can't escape all of these things. And what really comes knocking back on the door when you think those are the worst issues, these are the issues we need to look at again and again and again, is something like the Sherrone situation, which, I mean, we're going to get into a bit here, but I also want to get into the fact that LSU's Elijah Robinson, LSU's pursuit of Elijah Robinson, Matt Zenitz was reporting he was hired, as we told you last time, that was a report from Matt Zenitz that he had been hired, that Elijah Robinson had been hired. Now we're starting to not understand what is going on here. Is he going to go to Nebraska? Is he going to go somewhere else? It is up in the air right now, and it's just once again another defensive line coach situation at LSU where you can't quite get your defensive line coach no matter what you do. It's very bizarre. And maybe Elijah Robinson isn't the guy if he's questioning going to LSU. We want guys who are all in, but I think he would be an asset. But now you're thinking about, there are other high potential candidates at the defensive line position. Defensive line coaching position. Why not maybe pursue those? Pursue a guy that will stay at least 2-3 years, for once. LSU, how many defensive line coaches? It's been absolute madness. The amount of defensive line coaches LSU have had in the last decade. It is literally a coach a year, sometimes even two. One season we even had 3. And then at the end, there wasn't even a real official defensive line coach, just a bunch of guys kind of taking shifts. But the Elijah Robinson thing, is he going to go to Nebraska? Is he going to come to LSU like everyone thought was agreed? We went by Matt Zenitz's report. We did not have the capability to really get any good information on that. A lot of people said, that's news to me. That's news to me. That's news to me. So evidently it was news to them, because this thing was not as signed and sealed as I guess we were led to believe by Matt Zenitz. But I'm not trying to say he was wrong on that, because he then reported that, like, hey, this situation has evolved to this situation where it is murky, it is up in the air. I give Matt Zenitz a complete pass on that, because I understand where he's going with that. I've been in that situation too, where you're trying to report something that's very fluid. I'm not questioning his information whatsoever or his reporting. I think he had this right. I think the situation kind of just flipped on him with, wow, you're not gonna go to LSU. You're gonna maybe go to Nebraska instead. What the hell is that about? And so I think that's what happened with that situation with the reporting there. But moving on from there, the Sherrone Moore situation. I mean, my God. Could Michigan not be any more in a state of free fall? Michigan are in an absolute state here. And maybe I shouldn't have laughed because that sounds bad now, because I'm laughing more at the Michigan fans crashing out online and all this stuff, and how like brazen and mean some of these Michigan fans were to LSU fans with this whole Underwood stuff, and winning the title in a season where if Jaden Daniels has weeks out there starting as a freshman for that 2023 defense, LSU probably kick Michigan's ass for that title game. They were kind of rubbing it in our face like, yeah, maybe you won the Heisman, we got the title. It was kind of this crazy back and forth between LSU fans and Michigan fans. And so I'm laughing at the chaos for them, but really the chaos for Sherrone Moore, for now Bryce Underwood choosing a new school, moving on. All this is crazy. It's really wild. Sherrone Moore, Michigan's head coach. We all remember him. If you don't remember him, I'm gonna refresh your memory. He stepped in to coach the games for Jim Harbaugh when Jim Harbaugh was suspended. And he was the guy who cried on the field and was like, I love you, Jim Harbaugh. And like, I effing love you, bro. Like, and he had done a good job, but it was like, what the hell is this? Okay. And Sherrone Moore, we're not going to show his photo. We're not going to do that. We're not going to, everywhere it's kind of this like pulsation of like, Sherrone Moore, show the photo of him looking like, I'm not going to even say the stereotype. I think you know what I'm saying. And Sherrone Moore, he had a big role to play in Michigan winning a national championship that year. But ever since he's been given the keys of the kingdom, Jim Harbaugh's left. Michigan's gone downhill. He can't even beat Ohio State now. Ohio State beat Michigan. It's crazy because like they were just kicking Ryan Day's ass no matter what was going on. And so I think that was the last straw, obviously. But think about it this way. Sherrone Moore's fired. And they can say, hey, guess what? With cause too. Because we had a private investigator that found out about what you were doing with that assistant, with that support staffer. We will not give her name on this show, which was a rumor I had heard as a joke a couple times. Someone said like, "Or you're gonna go after your." Someone's like, "Is Brian Kelly going after his assistants like Sherrone Moore?" And I was like, "What?" Like, kind of laughed it off. And then someone later on said, "Dude, Bryce Underwood could probably transfer at the end of the season because Michigan's going to be in chaos." And that person, very plugged in with Michigan and very plugged in with LSU media, really, I think liked by LSU media people, but he's really plugged in with Michigan. He's a Michigan guy. And he told me, Michigan's not going to be in a good spot. We're going to be in a shitstorm where we're going to have to rebuild big time. And he's like, we might even get your old boy, Brian Kelly, to LSU for a few seasons. And I was like, don't you guys have Sherrone Moore? And then I was like, oh, wait. I was meaning to ask you, is it an investigation about Sherrone Moore? Is there investigation about him like sexually harassing like female assistants? Is that true? And before I could even really let that out, this guy had already said, "Hey man, he's done. This is worse than you think." Okay, so we find out that Sherrone Moore abusing his power with this female staffer, younger female staffer. Sherrone Moore has 3 kids and a wife. This lady, who, well, we could call her a victim now, was actually the one who was, while they were in a consensual relationship, was actually the one escorting his kids around the stadium. It makes it very slimy and greasy, I know. Ugh. But they got found out. Sherrone Moore got fired after losing to Ohio State. Like, this is just, no, you got to go. And we can fire you with cause. He finds out that they know about the relationship. And then the media starts leaking this stuff. And soon enough, Sherrone Moore is like in a panic where he's got to do something about this. And I won't speculate anymore on what happened because it is very... I think we know what happened. I'm just going to say that. I think if what you've heard on other avenues, if they are like in any way credible, which I like to believe LSU fans like kind of don't settle for that type of shit. They actually go the extra mile. They want someone who's actually credible. You know, if you watched Crane and Company, they did a recent show on this. Very, very good because David Cohn is very well connected with Michigan. They were one of the shows I wanted to watch because I knew of Cohn's. He's got huge Michigan ties. I don't know Cohn personally to talk to him as a source, but so I wanted to watch what he had to say on the show as a source. And I was blown away that these rumors were going around so much, not just around nationally on forums or people wanting it to happen more than having it hardcore evidence of it actually happening. And now it becoming this dark reality where there's a terminated pregnancy and a potential unaliving and unaliving, a self-unaliving, potentially. Just gets very dark very quickly. It goes from Bobby Petrino to like, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and very quickly. And the thing I want to stress, though, is Sherrone Moore has not had his side of the story spoken here. And this was an obvious consensual relationship from public view. From what the internet is undefeated. The evidence the internet has produced of the relationship that he had with this woman, it looks at least consensual. If he was such a monster, you wouldn't be like hanging out with him, cordial with him. You'd at least be like have this like cold demeanor, right? Even if he was abusive, you wouldn't want to be like standing next to him. I understand abuse dynamics can be crazy, and we're not Dr. Phil or anything. We're not here to talk about that, but like, it doesn't seem like a dangerous situation at first. It seems like a kind of, I'm going to tell you, sadly, a very common problem in college football. And Sherrone Moore just got caught. And his team said, his program, Larry Ellison, Dave Portnoy, whoever made the decision, said, whoa. We're not paying this guy $13 million. We know what we can find here. We've got this evidence of, this is bad. We're actually giving this to the media too. He thinks he's ruined. And they actually unknowingly, I don't blame this on them. This is actions by Sherrone Moore. This is Sherrone Moore's blame. But Michigan, when they knew it, how they knew it, who knows? They definitely used this to their advantage and only got rid of him when he wasn't useful anymore. They then poured gasoline on a burning, smoldering fire that, maybe could have been doused out with a foot and some water. You could have figured this out. It went from 0 to 60 by how they did this. And crazy situation in Michigan that has now reverberated across the country with Lane Kiffin going to suddenly ditch out on LSU, go to Michigan, rumors. Is Kalen DeBoer going to leave Alabama for Michigan, rumors? And Lane Kiffin has said publicly already on Twitter, hey, Dave Portnoy, no. How about you come down to Baton Rouge? We would be unstoppable together. It was the coolest tweet. Millions and millions of views from Kiffin's tweet. And he basically said, hey, man, this is what it's about. You come down to Baton Rouge. We're not coming up to Michigan. And the tweet blew up the internet. So I'm wondering here. Is Lane Kiffin, whether we're able to bring Dave Portnoy to the LSU fold as like a donor or not, is LSU about to try and pursue here Bryce Underwood? Because we know Bryce Underwood, former LSU commit, who was days away from signing with the Tigers before Larry Ellison came in with a checkbook of $12 million, paid in installments of $3 million per year, and said, hey, screw LSU, man. Come here. Come to Michigan. Make a ton of money. So he goes to Michigan, and he has kind of a mixed bag season. But Michigan as a team have a mixed bag season, and there's a reason why. Their coach, the whole time, and everyone knew it. Everyone around town, everyone on the roster, everyone on the support staff, word was around that this guy was going around and doing this shit. And now you got Bryce Underwood, who's taken University of Michigan quarterback off of his Instagram. I'm sure he's done other social media actions that would indicate otherwise, like pushing further away from Michigan since I've seen it. Because Michigan is now becoming a disaster, a fiery inferno. And let's not forget, Bryce Underwood loved LSU. And sure, he was committing to the Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly regime, right? I don't think it'll take him much to, convince him that the Lane Kiffin era at LSU, with that defense by Blake Baker, you're going to have to retool in the transfer portal once again on that defense in some key spots. But that defense by Blake Baker, you're always going to have a way to fight in games, even if your defense personnel-wise, injuries, things like that. We've seen it at LSU. If LSU had just had an offense, the games LSU could have won this season. LSU could have been in the playoffs instead of Ole Miss. And that's with a really terrible offense. They just needed to score a little bit here and there. because that's how good this defense was. They were smothering, they were suffocating, they were incredible. And Blake Baker, you know what? I think we can do even better because the defensive line only 27 sacks this last season. They can, that was lower than even the 2023 worst ever defense had. That worst ever defense had over 30 sacks. 27? That's really low. So you're talking about some key areas where guys are returning on defense, and then you're going to go out in the portal. You're going to spend big. LSU's already said that. You're going to retain guys like DJ Pickett. You just gave him a Nike deal to make sure of that. And DJ Pickett on that same day also given all SEC freshman honors, which he deserves, absolutely. I mean, DJ Pickett is incredible. And you get to keep that guy, Corey Raymond. Sadly, you don't get to keep Mansour Delane. And we'll see about Whit Weeks. I think Whit Weeks will come back for 2026. He's definitely a guy Lane Kiffin's going to really want to retain. I think it kind of hurt him. Like, man, I really actually wanted to coach you, Whit. Like, this could have been cool. Like, I think Kiffin would be bothered by that if that weren't possible. But obviously, his brother, number 33, West, told the world that he was no longer playing any games. Whit won't be playing in this bowl game. But Zach, his youngest brother, could Zach be entering the portal? That's another guy that you'd want to see Kiffin retain. He looked good in that fourth quarter against Florida, thrown into that moment, high pressure, and was actually very good. And he actually could be better than either of his brothers. But just going over kind of what Kiffin has done here in this first while, who he's retained, Corey Raymond, and then from that you get DJ Pickett, Nike deals, all this insanity, all SEC freshman. Like he's headed for all of the top honors. The work he did with Mansour Delane, Blake Baker's coming back. Kiffin. Blake Baker, Kiffin. Huge mix, huge personality on both sides of the ball here. Very, very spicy, very interesting from a recruiting perspective. How could you not want to play in either of these guys' systems? Because if you're good, you're not going to have to wonder about getting the football in Kiffin's setup. You're going to get fed. And then if you're in Blake Baker's defense, you're going to be flying around. It's going to be fun. It's going to be unpredictable for the offense and be beautiful to watch. Kind of a chess match. And it's going to be a defense that everyone's going to want to go flying around and absolutely light people up for each other. And their assignment strong. That was what was great about this defense this season. And yes, they broke in some big moments, and that's where LSU got to improve. And Blake Baker's got to improve. But we were missing some key players in that season. But getting Blake Baker back, huge, huge plus. Everyone knows it. Masterful work by Lane Kiffin. And now you have this setup to go out and go for any quarterback in the country and say, hey, man, look at what that defense just did. Can you score more than 25 points per game? Can you score more, 31 points in a game? We'll win with that defense. You just saw what we can do. We will get those guys through the portal. Again, we'll get guys who can at least replicate something of that, even if it's, but three different guys have to do what Mansour Delane did as one guy, leading the SEC in pass breakups, being a Thorpe Award finalist. Bryce Underwood, is he that next kind of frontier where that's the perfect quarterback for Kiffin to work with? Or is it Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss? You know, he had fantastic success specifically against LSU with Trinidad Chambliss. Wouldn't it be more simpler that Trinidad Chambliss goes in the portal, LSU picks him up? Would he continue to grow under Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr., both being at LSU with secure deals here? Charlie Weiss Jr. getting that $7.5 million deal. However, Underwood wasn't 100% there this last season. Michigan, you could just tell this was a difficult place for him to be. Like, you could tell that he could, man, what type of decision did I make? A good look of regret and kind of like buyer's remorse, like, what the hell did I do taking this gig to be? I mean, he was installed as the freshman starter at Michigan. Really, no quarterback duel or nothing like that, and from there had the whole shoulders of the franchise, shoulders of the program on him, and he had to deliver. And Michigan actually did a lot better than I thought they were going to do this season. I thought they were going to be even worse. And I'm wondering if Bryce Underwood would even fit Lane's system that well. Maybe Michael Van Buren could fit the system well. Michael Van Buren is a player we will for sure include in our part 2 of the, because we released an article that said the top 5 Tigers LSU must retain going into 2026. And there's 5 guys. There's going to be a part 2 of that. Michael Van Buren will for sure be in that as well, because I love his selfless attitude to play for the team when we really would have been down to a walk-on quarterback going into a few games. It would have been crazy. And he stepped in there and ate a redshirt situation where he wouldn't have had to waste eligibility and could have even played in the bowl game too. Instead, he was able to do that for us. I think that speaks to a lot. I like to see Michael Van Buren return and be given a shot, but who knows what type of potential Van Buren has. Does Bryce Underwood have more potential than Michael Van Buren? Yes. Is he the right quarterback for Lane Kiffin? I don't think. Here's the thing. We've been told so many times. We've been told so many times. This guy can't work in a Lane Kiffin system. This guy can't work in a Lane Kiffin system. It's only for dual threats. Or, oh, it's only for pocket passers. Or, oh, it's only for statuesque white guys. Or, oh, it's only for mobile, in the pocket kind of passers, but not dual threat guys. You know, we heard all this bullshit throughout the years about Kiffin's offenses. It's only for this type of bullshit. We've seen Lane Kiffin work his magic with various different profiles of quarterbacks. We're talking Matt Corral to Trinidad Chambliss, a Division II guy. Just even that jump. You don't even have to talk about Matt Leinart. You don't even have to talk about him being in on all of these situations with Jamarcus Russell in Oakland. Jalen Hurts as well, who's now become a Super Bowl champion and has played in the last 2 Super Bowl games as well. So for me, and here's a comment that is right with what we're saying. Paul. Oh, this is Paul Tarver. Sorry, Paul. I got water on my glasses. I'm doing this on my phone. What's up, Paul? Paul says, Lon, is Bryce even the style of quarterback Lane prefers? Seems Chambliss or Levitt, Sam Levitt from Arizona State experience will help us help us win now. That's a good question. Paul, from what I've seen, you've seen him work with Matt Leinart, right? You know what type of quarterback Matt Leinart is. And he won a national championship with him, scored 55 points on a Brent Venables defense in a title game. Then you saw Lane Kiffin coach Jalen Hurts to a national championship, and to another championship game, back-to-back championship games. And they probably would have won back-to-back if Kiffin's coaching the offense in that game. Instead, Saban fired him a week before the game, but he won a title game with Jalen Hurts as his quarterback, which I was really stunned by because Hurts did not impress me at all. I got to be honest. Hurts did not impress. But it just shows you the difference in quarterback profile that he can work with and really be successful with. From Jalen Hurts to Matt Leinart. Wow. So I think Bryce Underwood could work easily with Kiffin and fit in with Kiffin's offense. No problem. The question is, does Kiffin want to pursue him? Is he a target for Kiffin? Does Kiffin value what Underwood does? And here's the thing, too. Bryce won't be in any NIL trouble with Michigan. There's nothing like that. So there's nothing LSU would have to pay to free him from Michigan or from his contract in Michigan or some BS. That wouldn't happen. We don't have to buy off anything in his contract. But is that something that Lane Kiffin wants to pursue? This is the guy who rejected Brian Kelly, but now he's going to, in the face of this situation, crazy, horrific situation at Michigan, is the prodigal son who refused LSU for $12 million, is the prodigal son who had a house already picked out in Baton Rouge, is the prodigal son, Bryce Underwood, going to return to Baton Rouge. And many are clamoring for it. Many of the same people who said, oh, well, good, he's not worth a shit because he only played in high school football in Michigan. And high school football in Michigan is nothing compared to, high school football in the South. He's terrible. He couldn't cut it in the SEC, let alone in Michigan. And to be honest, there were some moments in Bryce Underwood's freshman year that look like that statement is very valid. Yes, he does have some issues as a quarterback. And then there's other situations where, oh my God, this guy could really develop and take that next step. Can he do it under Kiffin? Hell yes, he can. I'm really convinced Kiffin can work with any quarterback and make it happen. It's really just about personalities meshing. Jackson Dart, that's another guy. Jackson Dart, he turned Jackson Dart into a guy who would scramble for 10 to 15 yards on LSU's ass all the time. Bud Elliott says Bryce wasn't even good this last year. He had his moments of struggling. Bud Elliott says Bryce wasn't even good this last year. I mean, it was a mixed season, just like for Michigan had in totality. And I think putting it all on this one kid is a really savage way of a really lazy way of doing it as well, because Bryce Underwood was far from the worst problem with Michigan, but he did have issues as a quarterback at times, and he did turn the football over. He did have issues with reading the field, reading the RPOs, reading everything. There was moments where it was a mess out there. But I think he can absolutely take that next step at LSU, because I think he belonged at LSU in the first place, and maybe now he's seen what this last season became, an absolute hellfire for LSU. Maybe Bryce will be like, "Oh, sweet! Like this is actually the perfect time to come." Brian Kelly's gone, and now Lane Kiffin of all coaches is here. Incredible time. We also have some transfer portal concerns where we've seen Juwan Johnson enter the portal. That sucked to see, because Juwan Johnson did everything he possibly could for your team. Everything possible he could for your team. Played quarterback, was recruited as a corner, could play quarterback, and was one in the quarterback's room at one point. Threw a pass this season for 14 yards. Was a running back to help bolster the running back room. Catching passes, motion out wide. I mean, there wasn't a thing Juwan Johnson did not do for this football team, for this football program. Juwan Johnson is an absolute badass. And I wrote about him in that article we just talked about a bit ago, saying the top 5 Tigers that Kiffin must retain. Juwan Johnson was on that list, because it's like, man, he could actually be your quarterback. Like, this kid is so good, he could actually be your quarterback if given a chance. We just don't know that. We just haven't seen that. We've seen a bit of it here and there. We haven't seen a sustained amount to know what we could possibly have from him. And so it's like LSU lose a guy who could potentially fill up your quarterback, fill up your quarterback room. He could possibly be a running back and actually score a few touchdowns, which he did. Catch some balls out of the back. He could actually, maybe convert into a defensive back, and there's no better coach to try and make that conversion than Corey Raymond. But all of that goes out the window. Juwan Johnson has entered the transfer portal. He will play in the bowl game. Of course, this kid will. Of course he will. This kid does everything right. LCA, absolute super freak, what he did in some of those title games in the Superdome. Some of the records he racked up, incredible. People can say, "Oh, it was the Catholic League," or whatever. Okay, I don't care. Like, the dude is an absolute Goliath, an absolute madman, and absolute monument in Louisiana high school football. And then at LSU, it was great to see him as a Tiger. It was great to see him a part of the team. I think his versatility was his own downfall. His own versatility was his downfall. Kelly just wanted him to be a depth guy that would help them kind of shore up depth here, shore up depth there, make sure to fill this hole there. Oh, we need him at quarterback now. Okay, move him there. Oh, we need a running back now. Move him there. And sure enough, there was always Juwan Johnson to do that, but never to be given really a starring role. But just here's a few touches a game. And no matter what he would do with those touches, he was never going to play significant snaps at LSU with those type of coaches. And so it sucks to see him go because Lane Kiffin is a football junkie who would have been into Juwan Johnson, I think, and would have been like, man, let's feed this guy and kind of see what happens here. And if Juwan Johnson sink or swim, let's see what he can do. I think Juwan Johnson would have been a really special player at LSU. It just, what was his position? Like, I know we can all rip on the coaching staff, like I am too, of Brian Kelly for misusing him, for mishandling him, not finding a role for him, a home for him. But if we're going to do that, what is your solution? Where should he have played? And for me, I think he's a quarterback, and that's the reason I think that he's going to, he has entered the portal and he's going to go somewhere that is going to give him that opportunity to be a quarterback at the college level, because time is ticking and he's got to do this. So Juwan Johnson enters the portal. We also get the confirmation that Ashton Stamps, cornerback, enters the portal. We all knew that was going to happen after like week 3 or something. We haven't received 100% confirmation that Caleb Jackson will enter the portal, but he did redshirt, obviously, this last season. Even if he plays in the bowl game, it won't count against his eligibility. Everyone can play in the bowl game without it affecting their eligibility. So as of this moment, Caleb Jackson, our running back, who LSU Odyssey reported and came under a lot of fire for reporting that he would not play another game for LSU and that he was redshirting. We got in trouble with one of the parents when the other parent was the source and like on the record source. So it was a very weird situation where we just were like, okay, we don't want to hurt a family. We'll just delete this. We didn't know this was going to cause drama between the family because we're being told by the family, but let's delete this. Like, I don't want people to be upset and cause whatever. Maybe their plan will change, hopefully, because I like Caleb. I didn't want him to leave LSU in the first place. And then game after game after game after game, we already knew we were correct that he wasn't going to play another game at LSU. This had already been done, had been sealed, had been approved, had been delivered. No, you're moving on. And so it's very interesting that we haven't heard any type of confirmation that, hey, Caleb Jackson entering the portal, he's out of here. We haven't heard that yet, but I think the portal opens January 2nd. You're going to hear these announcements intermittently. This guy going on the portal here, this guy going to the portal there. The best in the business, Pete Nakos, Matt Zenitz. You're going to hear from guys like that. Hopefully, we'll get a few breaking news reports during this time. We definitely had some news on a few things that we really just we were told we had to just be quiet on, and it's stuff that is it's some heavy stuff that I think it has nothing to do with anything that is in the future for LSU. It's something that happened this last season under Brian Kelly in a different era, but it is something that has to be addressed and has to come into the light at some point, and it will. And LSU Odyssey will be the place to make that happen. But it was not the time, and we still have to we still have to put some things together to make that. We want to present this in a way that invites everyone to really get into this truth. But I wanted to make another point about this Sherrone Moore thing. Because people think that, okay, condemn Michigan, to hell with Michigan, and, they're cheaters, and now they're literal cheaters. Ha 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 ha, like, talking about how they cheated to get the 2023 title, which has been literally proven that they cheated. And now Sherrone Moore cheating on his wife, which I really don't want to laugh at. It's actually a tragedy. And then you have this situation where it's only Michigan are having this inappropriate relationship with their assistants. They're only at Michigan are they these power dynamics where Sherrone Moore takes advantage of this assistant half his age and all this stuff. I'm here to tell you that this is actually sadly quite commonplace in college football. Whenever you're going to have these type of people, adults, males, adult females, younger as well, together, you're already going to have kind of a dynamic where it's like college in a way, and they're working together. And yeah, that might happen, especially if they're single, that type of stuff, or even if they're not. But then when you have a coach, the power dynamic of the coach stepping over that line, crossing that threshold to say, hey, I can have sex with you. This is my team, my program. That's Les Miles territory. And Les Miles never even punished for that. But you saw Sherrone Moore get literally the most. You saw this situation go from, how do I put this, like a bit 0 to maybe like 25, 30 miles an hour. Bobby Petrino to Jeffrey Dahmer, like I said earlier, where it goes from, okay, oh God, to Rick Pitino, even to Ted Bundy, like just like, and but we've also never heard Sherrone Moore's side yet. This is all allegedly. From police reports, from reporting, from all these sources, including Michigan's own statements as well, University of Michigan. This is all alleged. We haven't seen what he has been charged with officially yet. Sherrone Moore has not been charged with anything officially that we've seen. Maybe that's changed in the last little bit. Maybe we haven't seen that. Okay. But I just want to say, we need to be careful with our own program that this cannot happen at LSU. Because when this happens, it is a stain that goes wide-ranging, and affects a lot of people. Sherrone Moore is now going to be going to jail. His kids are going to have their father going to jail for Christmas. Their wife for Christmas finds out that her husband, the head coach of Michigan, making, fuck you type money, is literally banging this chick who almost is like a copy of her, looks almost the same as her. And he got her pregnant, allegedly. And then terminated the pregnancy, allegedly. She did. And then they find out about it. He gets fired. And then he wants to allegedly go and end everything for the both of them. If you know what I mean. Allegedly. It is another step up, and that is why people are talking about it so much, is because it is insane drama. It is craziness. And that is exactly the type of situation that can happen at almost any college out there. It just has to spin out of control. It just has to spin out of control, which it did at Michigan very easily, because the people at Michigan, the highest people in charge, they knew about this and then used it to their benefit when the time was right, and they unknowingly almost caused a really terrible situation happen. So a very, very crazy situation, and it's affecting the whole coaching searches out there, all this stuff, but also the coaching waves of who's going to go here, who's going to go there, the transfer dominoes. Now LSU in play for Bryce Underwood. It looks like LSU will at least be putting out feelers, at least be checking in on their old guy, Bryce Underwood, to see if he would be interested, to see if there is a potential he could have a return of fascinating, a fantastical, a magnificent, an unhinged, an unexpected return to LSU. After all that's been said, after all that's been done, after all that's been signed, all the bridges burned, all the deeds to the house that have been thrown into the fire pit, all the madness, all the talk, the Dave Portnoy versus LSU histrionics. Could Bryce Underwood hear the call of the Kiffin and follow the Lane train back to his real home in Baton Rouge? Is that going to be what we're going to see? We'll find out soon. Everybody, we'll talk to you soon. Go Tigers and good night.